and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're receiving this information. This is from your show, Líderes del Futuro in Sonoma County. We are on KBBF Bilingual Radio every Thursday from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. And today we want to share with you the training on Know Your Rights with Immigration. This is being recorded on August 24th, 2025. So please, you can go to our YouTube channel and look at the latest version as things change over time. We also want to start with the disclaimer. We are not attorneys. We work with attorneys, but we are not attorneys. So everything we are sharing with you today is information we've gathered over the years on how to know your rights and prevent deportation. So the first thing we want to share with you is just the phone numbers in Northern California of the rapid response teams. If you are in Sonoma, Napa, or Solano, the rapid response team phone number is 707-800-4544. 707-800-4544. And so we invite you to become familiar with your rapid response number. And if you suspect that ICE is in the area, you can call that number. Again, pictures, video are essential, as well as the location where you believe you saw them. So it's important, again, whether you're in Marin County, Sonoma County, Napa, so on and so forth. We want to let you know that ICE has been located in every entry and exit of California. That is, if you in the past were able to drive over to Lake Tahoe and from there on to Nevada, immigration has been there for a while now. Same thing if you are from California heading into Arizona. And from time to time, we have gotten reports of ICE being spotted in between California and Oregon. So again, if in the past you were able to travel and maybe you are undocumented or you are in asylum proceedings and you were able to travel outside the state, this is not the time to do so. It's important that you stay safe. We also want to let you know that on our website, lideresdelfuturo.org, there is a tab at the very top where you can click on it and you will be able to find flyers that you can post in your businesses in Northern California, specifically in the counties that I mentioned, because the phone number listed there is again for Sonoma County and Napa County and Solano County. You can also use this type of sample flyers to create your own flyers for your specific state. And so we have multiple flyers there, some that say know your rights, they're in English and in Spanish. And then the checklist, because we do not want to create fear in our community, therefore educating people about when to report, what to report, and as a result of that, we are avoiding panic in a community that is already having a hard time. So you're welcome to download those and then just post them, share them with other individuals. And so people on a regular times ask us, who are the priority people for deportation? Well, typically our answer to you would be people with criminal records, people who have a history of drug use. It's important here to remind you that in California, marijuana is legal, but that is only in the state of California. Under federal law, marijuana is still a crime. Possession, use of marijuana. So if you are found to have gone to store where they sell marijuana, typically what you do when you walk in is they will scan the back of your driver license or ID, and that can be used against you. Also, if you purchase any products, and if you purchase any products using your credit card, that later on could be used against you as well. If you work in the marijuana industry, can cause you problems with immigration. So it's essential that you understand that. So again, as I mentioned, marijuana dispensaries or stores, I already explained that. People with records of driving under the influence, people with accusations, investigations, and records of child abuse or elder abuse, individuals who are in a CAL gang. CAL gang is the place where they keep all the records of individuals who have been identified as gang affiliated or gang members. And so it's super important to keep that in mind. If you appear in pictures on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, anywhere out there, and there are other individuals, you might not be a gang member, but other people in the picture are, they may just put you as guilty by association. People who have already been deported and came back, people who had deportation orders and overstayed, and then people accused of crimes. Again, just by the fact that there was an investigation of domestic violence, you could be in trouble. And typically, we would say those are the priority. But the reality is that about 71% of the people who have been detained by immigration over the last few months did not have a criminal record. That tells us that everybody is in danger at this moment. And so we want to make sure that you understand that because we want you to be careful. Also, if you have a cell phone, it is essential that you do not use or program your cell phone to be unlocked using your fingerprint or facial recognition. A lot of individuals, to make it easy on themselves and not have to remember a 6-digit code, what they do is they just use their fingerprint or they use facial recognition. The problem with this, as our attorneys have educated us, is that technically, if immigration takes you into custody, they can just try your fingerprints to unlock the phone or facial recognition. And if they were able to unlock it, because you didn't set up a 6-digit code, then they could potentially text a family member or all of your family and say, hey, I'm not able to take phone calls. Something is wrong with my phone. I was maybe in an accident or something of the kind, but I'm at this location. Can you come and pick me up? And now you are putting everybody in your family in danger. And as a result of that, we recommend that you use a 6-digit code, again, to prevent ICE from accessing your phone. Legally, they cannot force you to unlock the phone, but if you make it easy for them, then that changes the whole game. And so we want to make sure that every family has a plan. If you're undocumented, if you are, again, seeking asylum, if you have TPS, if you have DACA, everybody should have a plan because the more preparation you do now, the less you worry. And again, we are creating this a video for people in Northern California. So if you live in a different location, some of the information may not be useful for you. But again, we are doing this with the best of intentions. So establish a concrete plan and talk with your children. One of the issues that we are noticing is that a lot of adults are worried, have a lot of anxiety. Some of them are going into depression, and they don't notice that their children are noticing this. How do we know this? We're seeing more reports of student absenteeism from school because students are afraid. What if I go to school and then ICE takes my mom or my dad? I better stay home, right? And so please have a healthy conversation. We are creating a plan. This is the person who would take care of you if ICE takes me. And as a result of that, there is less of a chance of, again, children suffering if their parent is taken. And of course, learn your constitutional rights. A lot of information that comes out of the plan we're going to talk about right now comes from Immigration Legal Resource Center, and their website is ilrc.org. And the first thing is to make a childcare plan. And the first step of that is to identify somebody who has status. It could be somebody like an older sibling of theirs that is 18 years old or older, or maybe a sibling of yours, or maybe somebody, it has to be somebody that you trust. And once you have that conversation, then you would make a verbal agreement. You do not have to sign documents. And then you would complete the caregiver's authorization affidavit. And this only applies for California. You can get this from Immigration Legal Resource Center, and we'll provide the website a couple more times. And that way you can go and download it. What this agreement allows is for the individual who will take temporary custody of your child to be able to make school decisions, medical decisions, right? And they have to have this document that they have to show to the school, to the dentist, to the doctor, all of these other important places. And you officially do not lose your parental rights when you have this. Because there's another document that I'll talk about, and there is a difference. But in this one, you do not lose your parental rights. The agreement, again, allows this person to be able to take the child or children to the doctor, make medical decisions, and this individual would just present this document to the doctor or to the school or other places, and that would give them the legal right to make those decisions. It's important that once you have an agreement, a verbal agreement with the individual, you do not give them this document, but you leave it in a safe space in your home. It's really, really important that you do this. And there is a difference between the caregiver's authorization affidavit and legal guardianship. As a result of a lot of fear, a lot of parents are saying, oh, I don't want immigration to take me and then either leave my children with somebody else or just leave them alone. And so I'm just going to transfer my legal guardianship to somebody else. So let's go over the difference. The caregiver's authorization affidavit, again, doesn't take your parental rights away. It's a temporary situation for these pieces, education or the doctor, things like that. Legal guardianship requires a court to name somebody as a guardian, and that person would have the legal right to have physical custody of your child until you go back into court and you get your parental rights back. That is very important for you to think about. Which one do you want to do, right? And so in California, it's also important that you do not go to a notary to give this child care authority. The caregiver's authorization affidavit does not have to have a notary. Super important. A notary is only used for bank accounts or other property. Let's say, in case something happens to me, I am authorizing this person to be able to have access to my bank account and possibly close it, to make mortgage payments, or other things like that. That's what you would use a notary for, not to write a letter to give power of attorney, as they would call it, over your children. We have found some of those letters that have misspellings, that have the comma, in the wrong place, and it changes the meaning of all of it. So the California Caregivers Authorization Affidavit is plenty, and you do not have to go to a notary. If you want to take it to a whole different level again and do legal guardianship, you have the right to do that, but again, you don't have to. The only time you would do legal guardianship is if you thought that you may end up being deported. And as a result of that, you would need this person to take your children back to your home country. But there's another way of getting that done without guardianship. It's important, again, that you write down instructions if you're doing the paperwork with the California caregiver paperwork. It's important that you write down instructions. Again, do they have a medical condition? What medications do they take? How often do they take the medications? Where do they go to school? And the form that you can download from Immigration Legal Resource Center, they can give you the whole document in English and in Spanish, and you can fill it out just in case. Again, you want to make a list of all of the names and addresses and phone numbers for the doctor, the dentist, the schools, and maybe other family members in the area. Also, if your children are US citizens, you should get them their passport. And that you can get at the website travel.state.gov. And for the person who's going to keep temporary custody of your children, it's important for them to also become familiar with the website locator.ice.gov. And that is where, if you're taken into custody by immigration, a couple of hours, maybe 4 hours later, typically, they should be able to find your location there. And so, as I mentioned before, but I'll say it again, it's important that you speak with your family about this plan. Again, who will take care of the children? So if you already chose the person and you have a verbal agreement, invite that person to dinner or a meal. It's going to be an emotional conversation, but again, it's better that you get ahead of this than to regret not having a plan. Again, this person should be the one also who is going to bail you out. So hopefully you're putting as much money as possible aside for that purpose, for housing, for food of your children while you are away so that they are taken care of. Okay. It's important that the school gets information ahead of time about this possible caregiver. The same thing with the dentist, the same thing with the doctor. It's a just in case this person might, in a difficult moment, come in and make decisions about my children. Okay, super important. And again, for individuals in Sonoma County, it's also important that if you want to, instead of doing the caregiver's document, if you want to actually look at legal guardianship, you can go to our website only for Sonoma County, lideresdelfuturo.org, and there is a place where you can sign up in order to get a consultation with Sonoma County Legal Aid Foundation about guardianship. In regards to, again, your immigration options, it's important, and we are providing here and on our website, lideresdelfuturo.org, a list of attorneys that we call trustworthy attorneys. These are private attorneys, so they may be expensive, But again, our organization doesn't get any economic benefit from listing them. We just trust them for their work. So again, if you cannot see well in the screen, go to our website, Líderes del Futuro. These are attorneys in the Bay Area, and one of them is also in Sacramento, California. During this time, we are inviting people to again seek advice from a trustworthy attorney. It is also essential that you call those attorneys and say, hey, what is your specialty? It is essential that you understand that not every immigration attorney knows everything about immigration. Some of them specialize in U visa, victims of crimes, VAWA, the special immigrant juvenile status. Others specialize in marriage, adjusting status via marriage, or via siblings, or via children or parents, or other situations, right? So don't just assume that because you're going to one attorney, they are specialists on everything. But there's nothing wrong with calling and saying, could you tell me whether your attorney specializes in this? Or go to their website and see what they specialize in. The other piece is that there are individuals called accredited representatives. These are not attorneys. Some of these people do notary work. Some of them also do taxes, and they also have an accreditation. That means that they can do some paperwork on immigration cases, but they are not attorneys. Super important. If you visit with one of them, which is your personal choice, make sure you always get copies of whatever documents they have filed for you. And we ask you to please avoid people on social media. There's a lot of people that show up on social media, especially Facebook, and they claim to be lawyers. They have sometimes hundreds of people in a Facebook Live event, and they give you a phone number, and either they may take a case or they may refer it to another attorney that you don't know. And we have had many people who have fallen for scams. And so please be careful. Go to somebody local that you trust. Maybe ask somebody who already had obtained status, and you say, oh, how was that attorney for you? Do you know if they know about this type of cases? That is 10 times better. We've had multiple cases where after a phone conversation, an individual who claimed to be an attorney was asking for hundreds of dollars. And when we look at the documents that they were asking this individual to sign, it was a simple Word document that had been created to make it look like immigration paperwork and immigration forms, but it wasn't. We've known a few people who've lost thousands of dollars to this type of scams. And so it's important. And the other piece here in regards to VAWA is essential that because we are seeing it, that some of these individuals who claim to be attorneys are telling people that they might get status if they say this or that. Again, if the attorney is coaching you like that, again, you should be cautious. And so we also need to talk about your rights. So on the right side, you will see the red cards. Again, get those red cards. In Sonoma County, multiple agencies have them, and every one of the public libraries should have these red cards. Schools have been providing these red cards, so you can also ask there, and other organizations. But we want to go with something very simple but efficient about your rights. If ICE shows up at your door, do not talk with them. There was an interview years ago with a former ICE agent who said that they had received close to 60 hours of training, and much of it had to do with how to convince people to open the door. The moment you start talking with them, you're putting yourself in a situation where you are likely going to be opening that door. Remember, you cannot lie to an ICE agent. For that reason, it's better to not engage in dialogue. And so teach your family, especially children, to not open the door every time somebody knocks on the door or rings the bell. Parents, adults are the only ones, and from now on, for your safety, you should look through the window to see who it is, and if they say they are ICE, then do not talk to them, do not open the door. Once you open the door, you lose certain rights. The moment you open the door, you cannot close it. They're likely going to come in. And then keep your red card with you in your wallet, in your car, and at home by the window or next to the door, just in case. And then the other piece is if you ever speak with ICE, one is better to stay quiet and not say anything. You have the right to refuse to sign any documents until you speak with your attorney, and you have the right to one phone call. So we invite you to memorize the phone number of the person who will try to get you out of custody if you are detained. You only get one phone call. You're not going to keep your cell phone, so you have to memorize that phone number. The other piece, and I checked with our attorney today in order to say this, and that is the only three things. If you are ever detained by immigration, you should ask them what your bail is. If they say you do not have bail, right? Then the only thing you should tell them is three things: your full legal name, what country you are from, if you are undocumented, and your birthday. And this is so that individuals can find you in the ICE locator. That is locator.ice.gov. And the only way they can type that information is if it matches your name, the country you're from, and your birthday. And that way they can identify where you are located. Besides asking about bail, you need to tell them that you want your case heard or resolved in the closest ICE court, right? The closest immigration court. So for Sonoma County, that would be San Francisco. The other thing that you should carry with you, because they are doing what is called expedited removal. If you cannot prove that you have been living in California for at least 2 years, then they have a process of deporting people extremely fast. And that is called expedited removal. And therefore, starting today, you should have a copy of something that proves that you have been living in this country for at least 2 years. So it could be an electric bill, it could be a phone bill, it could be other documentation that again proves that you have been living here. If the electric bill is at somebody else's name, and the same thing with the phone bill, maybe getting some document from your bank, a letter that just states when you opened your bank account, or if you are a parent and have children in school, the name of the school, and maybe the principal or the counselor can write a letter stating that your child has been in that school or in that school district for at least 2 years, and again should be directed to you as the parent. Super important. And so you should carry that in your wallet, and that is one of the items that you would use to prove to them that you have been living here for at least 2 years. For Mexicans, it is essential that you memorize the Mexican emergency number, and that is 520-623-7874. This is called CIAM. 520-623-7874. There are 40 individuals at this emergency only number. So don't call if you're trying to make an appointment with your consulate or anything else. They're just going to say, this is not what this number is for, and they'll give you a different number. This is only for emergencies, and they have about 40 individuals 24 hours a day ready to take an emergency call. This is also useful in other emergencies. If a family member who happens to be Mexican passes away, you can call that number and they will connect you to the closest consulate to see what support you might be able to obtain. But if immigration takes you into custody, this is the number you need to call. So memorize it. The other item specifically for Mexicans as well is called the Consul app. The Consul app is for Mexicans. You go and download it in your phone and you're going to create an account, and it has to match, your name has to match the same information as your passport or your birth certificate. Otherwise, the system will not allow you to create an account. Two, you will be able to add an emergency contact, preferably somebody with U.S. citizenship. So it could be a child of yours who's 18 or older, or a sibling, maybe even a coworker, whomever you have chosen to be your emergency contact. And this has a lot of information. This app will give you information about your legal rights and a bunch of other stuff, but you cannot call somebody from there. There is a red button called El Botón de Atención, which if you press it for 5 seconds right before immigration takes you into custody. So let's say that immigration is conducting some type of check-in, or maybe they came into your job and they're coming and checking the facility, and you know you're going to get detained. Same thing if you're walking and you see immigration coming towards you, or in your vehicle and you know you're getting detained. You open the app, which, by the way, you should be checking every week. Otherwise, over time, it will log you out. And then you press that red button for 5 seconds, and then you close your phone. And what's going to happen is immediately CIAM will be contacted, and they will contact your emergency contact person. So super important. Where it says botón de atención, right? Is not for you to make phone calls. It's something you press for 5 seconds only in an emergency. And that activates the emergency system so that they can contact your emergency contact. The other piece is Líderes del Futuro Avanzando keeps getting a lot of complaints from our community, the Mexican community, that say there's not enough services, there's not enough appointments, there's none of that stuff. How do we get more services? And so we have a petition, and individuals can go to our website, lideresdelfuturo.org, and sign the petition. It's only for Mexican citizens to sign. And we are asking the president of Mexico to send more money to the consulate so that they can add additional services and additional personnel. You can also go, if you're Mexican or have children of Mexican families, they can go to our website, lideresdelfuturo.org, and there they can also find the document in regards to how can your children become Mexican citizens. And it's a PDF file that is gonna give you all the details. Where do you submit your documents? And once the Mexican consulate has verified that you have submitted all the documents, then they will contact you so you can make the appointment in order to go and make sure that your children become Mexican citizens. And here is some information about documents you should and should not carry. You should carry, if you have it, a valid work permit, your resident card, and your state ID or driver license, okay? So for those of you who are US residents, technically you're supposed to carry that document and show it to immigration. Make sure that if immigration takes that document from you, that you get it back. There are many cases. There have been many, many cases where immigration takes it, and while they're allegedly checking your documents, they put it in one of the pockets in their vest, and you are so in shock that you are being taken into temporary custody, hopefully, that you forget to ask for it back. And then later on, when you try to get it back, they say they don't have it. And then it's going to take sometimes up to 2 years to get a new one. So please keep that in mind. Same thing if you have a valid work permit, any of that stuff. You should not carry documents from your home country because that tells immigration immediately that you are likely an undocumented person. And of course, you should not carry false documents. You should always carry your red card, right? So that you can just hand it to immigration and it says, I refuse to speak with you until I speak to my attorney. And once again, memorize the phone number of the person who will activate your emergency plan. A little bit more information about the caregiver's authorization in California. And again, just a reminder, this is temporary custody in California. It does not take your parental rights away. And so the person who is taking custody of your children must be 18 years old or older. Again, if you have a child or a son or daughter who is already 18, 19, 20, and they're younger siblings, that person can take charge of the siblings. This document, again, just a reminder, can be used in school and for medical treatment. The children must live with the caregiver in order for it to be valid. So once again, we're reminding you, this document should also be used again for school and medical records. So you should notify the school if you're planning to leave somebody in charge of your children in an emergency and tell them it's only in an emergency. This document does not have to be notarized. I've said it, but in these situations, because people are in shock, people are anxious, we know we have to repeat it multiple times for you to take note of this. If the person who originally took charge of your children is no longer able to take charge of them, but you identify somebody else, then you have to do a new document. And the caregiver cannot use this document to take the children out of the country, right? So if you're not going to do guardianship, which takes away your parental rights, then in this situation, the caregiver, if you are, let's say, deported and you want your children to go to your home country, a lot of the times you don't need a lot of documentation, but it would be better if you would contact the consulate of your home country, right? Whether you are from Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala, or some other country, and they should be able to do paperwork, legal paperwork, to again make sure that your children are able to legally leave the country. And so it's essential, again, for people in Sonoma County, if you ended up in that situation, you can definitely contact Sonoma County Legal Aid Foundation, and they would be able to collaborate with us in order to get your children out of the country. And just a reminder, there's a 20-page document in English and in Spanish that gives you this information as well, and that can be found in the website ilrc.org, ilrc.org. But again, this only works in California. And we're almost done, but we want to provide you a little bit of information about something else called the Special Immigrant Juvenile Status Visa. This visa is for an individual who is under the age of 21, single, and has a way of proving that they have been the victim of abuse, abandonment, or neglect by at least one of their parents. And we have supported many individuals over the years to obtain this visa. Sometimes the mom and the child were victims of domestic violence in their home country, and they came to this country seeking refuge. And while they are applying for asylum, if they can prove that maybe the other parent was also abusive, then they can apply for this. The benefits of this is if the court approves this in the state where you are, this is not limited to California, but in California, you can do it until before the age of 21. If the court approves the guardianship, then this individual can apply for legal residency. The process used to take 3 years, now takes much longer. But during that time, the individual, once they become an adult, they can ask for a work permit to legally work in this country. These individuals would possibly qualify for citizenship later on. They would be able to buy property, and unfortunately, they cannot petition for their parents, which means if after they got their status and citizenship, and they are still living with, let's say, the mom, they cannot apply for status for the mom. That is how the system works. In other cases, it could be a child that arrived to the US by themselves. They can also ask for this benefit. The only thing here, the last item is once they become a resident of the US, they can apply for FAFSA because one of the requirements is that they have to continue with their education. If somebody in Sonoma County specifically believes that they qualify, they can send us an email at sijs@lideresdelfuturo.org. Again, this is only for Sonoma County, and we have identified a good number of individuals, and then we refer them to trustworthy attorneys. We also want to let the community know that Líderes del Futuro, for a couple of years, we've had an educational program called Sanación y Cultura, Healing and Culture, that takes DACA recipients to Mexico in order to learn about their ancestral cultures and receive training to better their mental health. We know that there's not enough resources in this country, and so we do this with something called advanced parole. If you know of somebody who could benefit from this, mental health is a serious issue. We are planning a trip to March for March 2026. Individuals with DACA can reach out to us at lideresdelfuturo@yahoo.com. And second to last, with the Latinx community, we have started a podcast called Chisme is Life, Therapeutic Conversations for the Latinx Immigrant Community. The first 10 of this will include social workers and therapists. And then the rest, we're just going to engage into important conversations about higher education, being first in the family to graduate college, first in the family to go into quote unquote professional careers, so on and so forth. So the second episode came out this week, and we are putting new episodes every couple of weeks. Again, quickly, the phone numbers for the rapid response in Sonoma, Napa, and Solano is 707-800-4544. And there are others in the screen. You can do a screenshot, you can take a picture and share with other people. And finally, again, we are Líderes del Futuro, and we are on Facebook as DACA Sonoma County. And on Instagram and TikTok, we put a positive video of 15 seconds typically every morning to promote mental health, both on DACA Sonoma County and on Instagram and TikTok at Líderes del Futuro. And with that, we want to thank you for your attention, and we hope you take care of yourself.